Hey buddy, heard the yard work was kicking your butt this weekend, so you missed a couple of the games, so here's everything you missed. Well, before I start, YouTube hit me with that demonetization because I had uploaded a couple unedited clips per request, so if you enjoy the voiceover content and want to support the channel, my Patreon's in the description, but most importantly, thanks for just watching and caring about special teams. So let's get into it. Tommy Townsend opened up with a stellar performance, putting up a 55.5 yard average and hit a 74 yard nuke inside the 5. The Dolphins-Ravens comeback was absolutely insane, and a very important Jason Sanders extra point put the game out of reach of a Justin Tucker field goal, because if not, the Ravens would have won on a Justin Tucker field goal. It's just inevitable. It also opened up with a humongous 103-yard kickoff return from the Pro Bowler Duvernay. Braden Mann was the secret super carry of the Jets-Browns games, throwing a first down pass as well as converting a must-get onside kick to keep the door open of the inevitable comeback. But I don't want to take anything away from Bojorquez, who balled out, putting a couple of beautiful punts inside the 10 late in the game when it mattered the most, and ultimately the overall missed game winner counter will stay at 7 as Zuerlein connected on his PAT to seal the game. It's also worth knowing that for all of his heroics last week, Cade York did miss an extra point during this game, which ended up costing them big time. Jack Fox balled out, connecting on a massive 56-yard, 5.6 second hang punt to pin them inside the 10, as well as putting up a 55.4 yard average himself. Also, Joey Slime missed a PAT, so that's a story to watch, as any more of those and he may find himself in the hot seat. Chase McLaughlin kicked for the Colts after Hot Rod was released, but if you missed that, it's because the only time you would have had a chance to see him was on a second half kickoff, as the Colts put up not one, not two, but 0 whopping points. But a couple turnovers on downs inside the red zone may imply they don't necessarily trust a new guy, or they just knew they needed touchdowns at this point in the game. A decent but pretty uninspired day by Camarda and Gillikin, but we saw a nice little pooch punt, as well as seeing the duality of Camarda, which is pin punts that go pretty well, as well as a pretty atrocious shank punt only going 26 yards. There's also a fun little negative 6-yard return that gives punters like me the dingles. Jamie Gillen smashed 5 punts for over a 50-yard average, and a long of 6, and 80% of Johnny Hecker's punts stayed inside the 20-yard line. Aside from that, we had a field goal fest with both kickers going collective 7 for 7, and Graham Gano getting revenge on his old team with a beautiful 56-yarder to win the game. Jake Bailey had an uncharacteristic 50% of his punts going for touchbacks, but on this one specifically, I think 41 could have saved it. But we also get a muffed punt turnover number 1 of this weekend, as Presley put up a 51.8 yard average on his 4 punts, being carried by a massive 69 nice yarder. Younghoe Koo missed a 44 yarder, which is very unlike him, but aside from that, the only notable thing that came out of this game was the Falcons almost breaking the 28-3 curse. Not yet, Falcons, not yet. The Seahawks came crashing back down to earth this week, getting stomped by the 49ers, where they could seemingly get nothing going outside of special teams. We also had a muffed punt that resulted in a score for the second time this week, but there was a blocked field goal which gave Seattle their only points and saved them from what was otherwise going to be a shutout. Shooter McPherson came out hot, going 3 for 3 against the boys, and Huber showed he still got it, putting up a respectable 47-yard average, including this 63-yarder. We also got to see Bengals rookie Caladomitis, who is looking spectacular at this time at the long snapping position, and he could be a long-term replacement for the franchise if need be. Cam Johnston ate his Wheaties before playing the Broncos, and it's a shame the rest of his team didn't. But he put up a massive 53-yard average, featuring 3 punts of 60 or more yards. The kickers also went a perfect 6 for 6 on the night, with McManus connecting on a 50-yarder. AJ Cole committed a felony against footballs, opening up with a 66-yarder, followed by a 61-yarder, and ended with a 53-yard average, and that was about all note from that game. Pat O'Donnell went from being on the Bears to now having partial ownership of the Bears by being a Packer, and he exercised that ownership by putting up a 61-yard average on 2 punts. Trenton also put up a 49.4 yard average on his 4 punts, including a muff punt that the Packers happened to recover, with muff punt counter going up to 3. Now everybody gather around, because it's time for another Ryan Stonehouse meat writing session, as he put up a massive 55.5 yards, a punt across 6 punts, with 5 of 6 going for 50 or more yards, and 2 of 60 plus. Sam Martin also forced 2 muffed punts, which is a little wild, and one of them was recovered and resulted in a field goal for Muff's 4 and 5 of the weekend, leading to ask the question if punts are getting harder to catch, or if we finally started putting baby oil on them to get that slight advantage. This week ended with Ryan Wright showing how elite rookies named Ryan are, as he put up a 49-yard average and only allowed 14 return yards, and kept 60% of those inside the 20 with his 59-yarder to the 5. Also, Aaron Sipos showed he still has his AFL roots clearly intact, as he was able to run down a blocked field goal to make a tackle to save the Eagles from, let me check my notes, only winning by 10 points. But that's all you missed, and I'll see you next week in case you miss anything else.